Hey folks, I'm Janek Gwizdala. It's the Janek Gwizdala podcast. And yes, after so many months actually, we are finally talking about the brand new preset pack of HX Stomp presets, both for this one I'm holding here, the regular Stomp. I've even done a special add-on for the HX Stomp XL. More buttons, more access, more manipulation, more options. So I've included that for owners of the Stomp XL. We're going to dive into all of the sounds. I'm going to give you a taste of what they sound like. They are currently up on the website. If you go check out janekgwizdala.com, you'll see something like this. Synth presets, studio ready, always on presets. Still have some books in there. And yeah, the main focus is in the new pack are synths and studio sounds, kind of set it and forget it style presets in terms of, you know, the front end and the back end, like all inclusive parts of your signal chain in the very basic sense, in the preamp, in the compressor, in the little bit of saturation world. I've made a few of those. And then weird and wonderful sounds from, what did I say, from film score? What did it say on here? I think it says from film score to funk. Geez, I'm a terrible marketing manager for my own business. Had to come up with something, but it really kind of is. It's like you can be 1 minute sitting in the control room with Hans Zimmer and a modular synth setup, and the next minute you can be playing away like Bootsy Collins with some heavily filtered synth bass. I'm going to play everything today on the 4-string. Give everyone a super realistic idea of what these things sound like, what most people are going to be using them for, and also a couple of things that I included in the new bundle are for those of you that have maybe had questions about, oh man, Janek Gwizdala, he plays that weird tuning with the E to C, the 5-string with a low E and a high C. Well, I've made a preset that may give you access to that, even if you don't have a 5-string. And similarly for the low B thing, if you're just out there on the road, maybe you just want to carry one bass, maybe you don't need a ton of low Bs, Cs, C-sharp Ds, and E flats in your world on your gig, but you need a couple here and there. I've made a preset that might help you get that, but still use just a 4-string, carry one instrument, get the best of, well, all three worlds, low B, high C, and the 4-string. So we'll get to that. That's one of the presets. There are 9 new presets in total. They're in one big bundle. Of course, if you don't have the previous JG signature pack of the previous 6 presets, I've bundled them all up, so you have the option. If you already have those, just go get the new ones. If you don't have any of them, you can grab all, what is that? That's now 15 or 16, something like that, 15 or 16 presets, all bundled into one massive package. It's all at the website, janekgwizdala.com. It's linked below in the description of the video or the show notes of the podcast. Let's get stuck into some sounds. I have on my desk here, let's turn this around, second camera, what do you know? I've got an XL here. We'll make some, just to explain, it's not plugged in. I'm not going to show you like because everything's at my feet basically. I have another Stomp down by my feet so I can operate it, as you probably will when you use them. But I have a regular and I have an XL on the desktop just to make some examples. This will be somewhat of a tutorial because no matter what you do, whether you go out and get the presets or not, I want to talk a little bit about the way I've thought about these presets, and also the way you can, and I hope you will, if you get the presets, I hope you will adjust them to your needs. And I want to talk a little bit about how I think about adjusting them, and, you know, something that you might hear like, whoa, that's so close to what you want, but it's not quite there because it's my thing and not your thing. You can so easily take all the work I've done with the programming and with just the tiniest tweaks, get access to so much more stuff. And whether that is just you want a different combination of blocks within a preset, you know, I want to talk about resetting those, and also how to get the most out of the regular Stomp, how to get the most out of 3 buttons, how I do things, you know, switching from one block to another, using only one knob in sort of Stomp box mode. But let's actually get to some sounds. Let's go with the most basic one. And this is, and I've got to give you the clean sound of the bass first. That's it. That's the clean sound of my instrument. It's not the loudest I've ever heard it, I must admit. I hope we're in good shape audio-wise, because this entire episode is based on sounds. Now, that's it. That's clean. And when I add in what I'm calling the always on preset, when I add that in, we're really giving it some vibe. Let's maybe add each element as we go. That's clean. That's some preamp. That's some compressor. And it's very, very subtle, but I've added a little tape saturation at the end to give me kind of my always on, super basic, but super functional sound, my super functional fundamental bass sound. And just to remind you what it sounds like with it all off. So obviously there's a little bit of boost there in terms of volume. And that's another thing you're going to have to figure out where the stomp sits in the signal chain for you. It's really hard designing presets only knowing my preferences, and really trying to anticipate where you might put your stomp in your signal chain, or if the stomp is going to be the only thing you're taking out. So this kind of sound for me is perhaps if it's the only thing I'm using, not that it won't work with it in sequence, in series, or in parallel with a bunch of other pedals. But in that case, I would say it was more towards the beginning of the signal chain. So if you do get these sounds, if you do go out and buy the preset, bookmark this video or this episode of the podcast wherever you listen or watch, because this will kind of act as a pretty solid tutorial if you ever have any kind of basic questions about how all of these sounds are put together. So that's always on. I was always the biggest skeptic of digital compressors and preamps, but as you can hear, they really open up the sound. And yes, okay, it's a very nice sounding bass anyway. And yes, I have 30 years of experience playing, so we're not exactly polishing a turd here. But as you can hear, objectively, whether you like it or not, there is a difference in sound. And more importantly, and I guess most importantly with all of the sounds here, the most interesting element is the change in the feel, and actually the enhancement in the feel when I go to a sound like this. What am I doing? Sorry, doing the Barry Harris diminished six. Is that right? No. Yeah. There it is. Losing my mind for a second. So that's the always on. That's probably the most basic sound in the whole setup. And now we get to, actually I'm using the Stomp XL. So I actually have the option to move it to navigate without having to bend down, which is really nice. I do appreciate that. If we go to perfect timing. If we go to this is one thing I will say for the XL that is really nice, is that when you hit the mode button, the display changes, and you can use the bank up and down, or you can use A, B, C, and D to select different presets right there on the screen. So you have access to 4 presets, or you can bank to the next page and have access to 4 more presets. So I do like that in terms of the access you get to it. And then of course, once you're in that preset and you change mode back to kind of stomp box display, you can see all the individual elements of your sound. Then you have 6, well, I guess 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I guess you have 6 buttons instead of 3 on the regular stomp to access all of your blocks. And since you can only have 8 blocks total in any preset on the stomp, that means you're getting access to 6 out of 8 sounds. And one of the things I'll talk about a little later is how I have one button that switches between 2 sounds. So that's kind of, you get accessing 2 blocks using only one switch. So the Stomp XL definitely gives you a ton more access. And then, of course, yes, the obvious point is that it's almost twice the size. And the one bummer is that it's almost twice the size. In fact, it kind of is twice the size, and it has the same DSP. It has the same processing power. So I really wish that when you're investing in something that's this much more expensive and this much of a bigger footprint, I would really love to see an upgrade in terms of the processing power, because you're getting towards a much more powerfully, a much more high-powered floor unit. That those tend to come, like the Helix floor. Of course, that is significantly bigger than this, but you know what I mean? You're no longer in this sort of smaller, almost stomp box size thing. You're getting towards a floor unit. And it's really, quote unquote, only giving you a few more switches and no more processing power. That's probably my only gripe with it in terms of size versus function. And we are into what I call arrival. In the description on the site, I put that it was something something between, like, what did I say? I really should read the description, because I said something like it's something between dubstep and something else, or maybe dubstep and an alien invasion. Yeah, is that what I called it? Arrival, a cross between dubstep and an alien invasion. And you can set the tap tempo. That's why I tend to always leave the tap tempo where it is on the smaller stomp, because I work so much with time-based effects, and I like to use my stomp as a tuner. I always tend to leave foot switch 3 as tap tempo / tuner, so I really only have access to 2 buttons for all of the 8 blocks, up to 8 blocks in each preset, which makes it challenging. I, of course, I'm sure if you followed the channel for a while, I tend to use these pedal netics. That gives me the Heloxy Duo Mini. That covers up the logo here, goes on the front of the stomp, and gives me foot switch 4 and 5. So then I have 4 foot switches if I leave FS3 to tap tempo and tuner. Anyway, I'm digressing. Let's get into this. So I've set my tempo there. 1, 2, 3, out. And I've put a little bit of a tail on a lot of these sounds, so there's a little delay. It's quite subtle, and a little reverb, a combination of the two. If I turn those off and play it dry, I just think it gives it a little bit more vibe when and you kind of tend to play a little less. And it's not washed out, it's not huge. Like I said, it's really subtle. And of course, you can play that sound without the rhythm element, without the sequencer element to it. And if we take the delay and the reverb off, it's another thing. You're going to find that there's like a sweet spot for some of these sounds on the neck of the instrument. If I go back to my front cam, you'll notice I'm not playing down in the bottom of the neck. And muting becomes a factor as well with some of these sounds. So it's definitely quite a unique experience to get used to. But once you do, you can have a ton of fun. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what I call Arrival. Like I said, a cross between now I've got to find where all my sounds are. That's a cross between dubstep and an alien invasion. And I haven't used the XL in a while, so I'm slowly remembering all the navigation down here. Let's change modes. There we go. So here we have a couple of options. This is one where I've set 2 types of distortion. One's using a ring modulator, one's using an actual distortion, and I'm accessing each block, not simultaneously, but back and forth. It's like an A-B where I can. Let's play it about as clean as we can without the delay and the reverb. So that's our distortion, and this is our ring mod. And ring mod, I've actually turned the ring mod more into a sample rate reducer and a bit crusher. This is meant to emulate my Frederick Effects, Bug Crusher, or the Iron Ether Frantabit, for instance, two of my favorite pedals. Something you'll hear me using a lot in combination with a Boss OC2 or the MXR Vintage Bass Octave or the Pearl OC7, any of those vintage sounding OC2 octaves, plus that sample rate reduction. And that's just those two elements. But like with the others, I've added a little bit of a tail. I like a longer tail on this sound like that. That might be too much for you. Don't be afraid if you grab these to just go in to the preset and turn down the feedback a little bit, or turn down the mix. Maybe you want something that goes long, but you want it at a lower volume. Maybe you want something that goes really short but at a higher volume. There is so many options, and if I put the distortion on there instead of the ring mod, totally different vibe. And then I've got this. I'm going to take the delay and the reverb off. I've got a filter on there. Again, definitely certain sweet spots on the neck that make this one way more effective. Let's get the camera around here a little bit. Let's use it with the ring mod and add in the delay and actually just the delay. And I'll get the tap tempo 2, 3, and put a little bit of reverb in there. So that's another fun one. That's something that's kind of more on the, I would say, the kind of signature sound. That's something that I kind of use. I'm not going to say too much, actually. I use it. Let's just say I use it just about enough. But it is something I love to use. It's something that really just fattens up and changes the texture of the low end. It's one thing to play with an octave pedal. It's another thing to play with maybe an OC2, which is more of a sine wavy synth sounding pedal. It's yet another thing to add that saturation in there, whether it be more with the sample rate reduction or with a distortion or an overdrive, and really change the texture of the bottom of the band. I think that can be super effective. You also might want to put elements of these sounds on momentary switches. So you can be grooving away with your OC2 sound, and then with the momentary foot switch, just add in a little bit of that sample rate reduction and then get out again if you don't want to commit to playing that all the way through the section of a song. Really very simple shortcut. Woo! And we're into synths. I call this Into Darkness. It's kind of a bass-centric approach to some kind of movie sounds. We got a little bit of chorus going on in there, and it's kind of a fat, brassy. And you can get down there, take out the synth element of it and just groove along with the bass. But it's just one of those big, fat, sort of thematic. I think you play not such dense lines, not so intricate, but big, wide, fat, kind of soundtracky kind of, I think movie theme. That was what was going through my head anyway when I made the sound. It's not that complicated a sound, but it does have some kind of nice combinations between the synth stuff, the modulation stuff, and a pair of delays on here. So I have 2 delays. There's clean. So it's like a reverse delay on there. I love that sound, especially when you put a synth into a reverse delay. And then I have more like a vintage delay. And obviously with or without the filter, you don't need that. It's the old Jamiroquai thing. I want to do it. That might be just too low. Maybe. Yeah. So as you can see, lots to be had from that sound. What haven't we done yet? Oh, Interstellar. So this, and what I don't have plugged in, unfortunately, is a volume pedal. And a volume pedal is kind of key for this. Maybe I can fake it here. We're definitely getting into the soundtrack and synth and studio portion of this preset pack. As you can hear, it's still going. Really aggressive in terms of the delay and the reverb. The underlying sound is kind of quite a fat wave with the octave. You actually don't need the octave at all. I kind of like using it without the octave. Pretty aggressive. Then when you do pop the octave in, I mean, trust me, don't do that on every gig because you will get fired. But in the right circumstances, on the right session, you could definitely be having a few keyboard players look over you, going, "Damn, that shit is hip. How did you do that?" Now we have a couple more in terms of, let's see here, Into Darkness. We did that one. We got Mars Attacks, and as you will probably have figured out, Interstellar, Into Darkness, Mars Attacks, Space Jam, Arrival, Contact, they're kind of space themed. This is Mars Attacks. And I guess the way you kind of either have the option for a bunch of attack right up front on the note. In fact, I'll take the delay off. Pretty fast attack, but then I put in something that swells into the note. That's still not that slow, and it's kind of difficult to see because this is definitely a feel thing. But when you play this sound, you will feel the delay in terms of the sound kicking in and ramping up into the synth, basically taking away that initial attack. And when you put the delay in there, and that's right, I put 2 different kind of timbres of synth in there as well. Another example of having 2 blocks and 1 foot switch, and setting them opposite, so when one is on, the other is off, and vice versa. So I have, that one has a little more rasp and upper mid to it, and kind of tails off slightly differently to this one. And it's really interesting. If you play a C, for instance, and you don't stop the note and you strike it again, you'll get no more raspy attack. But as soon as you stop the note and mute it, you'll go right back to the top of the cycle and get that initial attack again. So there's a lot of detail in the fingers here, actually. There's way more to this in terms of technique when you're playing these sounds than meets the eye. It's not simply just plug in and play. It's plug in, play, and then start to get used to the nuance of all the different aspects of each sound and where the sensitivity is of each note as well. So kind of, I really dig that one. That's like a nice big fat synth. We've got one more. Oh yeah, we've got, in terms of these ones, we've got Space Jam, yet another space themed movie. Here we go. There. So we've got a sequencer, we've kind of got a parallel loop, and we've got a sequencer sequencing the highs of the harmonizer, and we have options. If I turn the harmonizer, whoops, there it is. We've got our lows. 2 different kinds of lows, subby and one with a little bit of a rasp, and then we've got our upper part of the sound, again with 2 different types of wave on it. One is actually a bit crusher this time, and the other's a distortion. There's your distortion. That's the bit crusher. Different low end. So you basically have 2 options for each thing. 2 options for the low end, 2 options for the bit crusher, and then you can add the sequencer. And the sequencer will only affect the high end, and the low will be in a parallel path, and kind of keep its integrity, keep the low end of the band, keep its function. Really fun for improvising. The fact that there's tap tempo means you can fit into pretty much any situation. It's not like, oh, you have to be on your own doing some weird solo show or something. Actually not. You can play with a drummer and play with a band, play with a groove. Just keep checking in with the tap tempo from time to time to make sure you're on track and keeping in time. So I mean, we've ripped through a bunch of sounds there. Now I want to get to these 2 these were kind of experimental, and one is I'm calling low B, like I said at the top. I have a 4-string bass, right? But I'm going to say that sometimes we definitely want I wonder which camera is going to be better for this. Oh no, probably not that one, unless I can get it far enough away. Probably not. If I got to do the dreaded right knee thing. So you can see that I'm playing 4-string. Get you as close up as I can here. And I have a momentary switch. So where I would normally play an F, hit that momentary switch. And I really really do. It's crazy just playing it, because I only finished these like yesterday, just playing it again. Really, this is one of the first times I've gotten to use it. It's really fun. I mean, you have to think about your fretboard, and you have to, make sure you're okay with putting your finger down where there's normally an F, hitting the switch, and hearing C. It's gonna take a little bit of getting used to, but man, talk about having a 4-string and being able to drop down a few notes. Obviously, it's not the exact sound of the bass. It's a digital representation. We're not trying to kid anyone here. It is what it is. But in terms of a mix, even when it's pretty exposed, I think it sounds cool. And in the middle of a mix, with a band going on around you, people are going to feel the weight of the low notes, and they're not going to be too bothered by the fact that it is a digital representation of your instrument, a fourth down, rather than the real thing. So I think that's a massive win. I'm sure a bunch of you will put it to good use and innovate it and take it way further. And to that end, I have an option. Oh, why can't I get to the next one? Here we go. I have an option for, where are you? Where did you go? There we go. I have an option for the other direction as well. If you are of the high C. You can give yourself the range of a high C or the top end of a 6-string bass, however you want to look at it. You can give yourself that extra string at the top end of the instrument. It's a little more warbly at the top, I would say. I'm actually more impressed with the integrity of the lower notes. But again, if you throw a little reverb on there, a little modulation, maybe a little delay, the chances are you're not really going to notice that much, especially if you're not hanging out there all night. Again, it's a bit of a head fuck to play G and it be a C, but I think it's a fun way of getting to travel with just a 4-string and having the option of the full range of a 6-string. Essentially, I guess I'm thinking about it in terms of 2 5-string basses, but really, it's the range of a 6-string. It's those extra few notes that can be awkward to carry around on an instrument if you're not used to them, but they can be kind of super fun if you only need them very, very rarely. And I'd highly recommend giving it a shot. I know I'm going to give it a shot with this bass on my next gig. I think that's going to be really fun. And yeah, get in the comments as always. Your feedback is greatly appreciated. Let me know what you do with them. Post videos of these presets. Let me know how you're using them. And how you get on with them in the regular Stomp versus do you feel like you really need the Stomp XL to get the most out of them? Do you use a MIDI switcher? There are so many layers to this and so many setups and options to get the most out of these sounds. But hopefully, in its most basic form, as it stands, the preset pack will really help you make music. That's, at the end of the day, the most important thing, is to make your life better as a musician and more fun. Now, everything is linked in the description of this video or in the show notes of the podcast. Like I said, if you don't have the JG Signature Series that has been out for a couple of years, you can get that bundled with the brand new one for a pretty big discount. So I highly recommend doing that if you want to check out all the sounds together. Whoa. All right. Big breath. It's been a solid couple of months working on these, a little bit of a labor of love. And as I'm sure you will change them and update them and manipulate them, I too will do the same. That will probably lead to more and newer presets in the future. And that's how it goes. It's never the end. Each milestone like this, each presentation of these presets is just the start of the next journey, and hopefully it's the inspiration to the next set of sounds, the next compositions, the next performances, the next form of expression and form of having fun when we go play music. So really appreciate you spending some of your insanely precious time with me talking about music, talking about effects, learning about the bass. And yeah, I'll see you all again on the next video.